Welcome back with another Stud Muffin 1986 tips and tricks. This time I'll be going over how to effectively use a tank destroyer. Now, the purpose of a tank destroyer is to be able to provide cover fire, meaning putting yourself in a position most effective that's either high up, going to give you kind of the bird's eye view, where you can spot or see most of the enemies that your meds are spotting for you, and be able just to rain down fire on them, or be in a position where you're moving with your team and using them as protection and being able to move out, take those effective shots, and pull back, getting yourself into either a good hidden or covered spot while you're either reloading and or looking for your next move. One of the reasons why I'm going up and taking this hill is this goes along with understanding your tank's strengths and weaknesses. One of the biggest weaknesses with this tank is its gun depression is not very good. Therefore, it would make it very difficult for me to go over to one of these hills and be able to angle my cannon down far enough to be able to get shots without putting myself in a dangerous position. Therefore, putting myself very far back, kind of high up, puts me in a very good spot where I'm not having to rely on my gun depression as much and still be able to fulfill my job in raining down fire upon the enemy. Now, from this position, you can easily see that I've got a pretty good bird's eye view or an overview of where a lot of the enemies are, kind of what I was referring to earlier, and just be able to just rain fire down upon on them. Now, tank destroyers are typically the only types of tanks that I'll purchase camo netting, just because they're the most stagnant out of all the different types of tanks. Once you've got a good position like this, you know, you really want to remain hidden and just keep that firepower just raining down upon the enemy. When getting detected, especially from a high position, you want to get out of there as fast as possible. Now, this is a perfect example of knowing your tank's strengths and weaknesses. So I purposely try to go up the hill just a little bit so that my armor is angled and making it much more difficult for him to hit me. Now, I go to my external view after I take this shot so that I can see where he's pointing his cannon. Just right there, you're able to see he hit my turret plate, which is exactly where I wanted him to hit, because that is an impenetrable part of my tank that he or anybody would have been able to penetrate. So using that external view, just zooming out, being able to see exactly where their cannon is pointing, and then angling yourself accordingly so that you can bounce their shell off a desired location on your tank. This is one of the downfalls with some tank destroyers. Not all of them, but in many cases you're having to rely on your teammates to be able to be up far enough to be spotting for you, just to be able to give you eyes so that you can clearly see where they are and be able to rain down that fire upon them. Okay, so got detected again. This is exactly why I stay very close to either hills or barriers that I can quickly zoom back behind if I get detected or I'm reloading or whatever, so that I am fully protected, not absorbing any damage. And then when I'm out of sight, I can then go back into my high position, or when it's safe, I can pop out again. So another issue I have with some tank destroyers is sometimes with those destroyers where you're in a far back position like this, raining down fire, in a good spot, all that good stuff, sometimes it can just turn into a waiting game, which, yeah, I mean, that isn't really very good. Burning time and all that, especially if you're fighting against very experienced or good players, they're going to know where not to go to make sure they're staying out of range or protected from you, unlike less experienced players, you know, popping out, exposing themselves quite easily for you to be able to get those shots on them. And so in a position like this, yeah, you can eat up an inexperienced player quite a bit, but a more experienced player, like how some of these guys are playing, it can just turn into a waiting game, and then it can get just drug out. Oh, just like what you've been able to see from this video, I'm shooting from a very far distance back, which is the reason why most destroyers have sometimes the best cannon in terms of penetration, is because, you know, they don't have the luxury like a medium or a heavy tank to be, you know, much more close up and be able to easily shoot those weak spots. They're able, you know, these things are sometimes shooting very far back and need that higher amount of penetration to be able to either snipe or, you know, just fulfill its purpose. Now, in this point in the game, there's no purpose in just staying up there in the same spot, waiting the whole time. No, most enemies are dead. You know, the game's coming up to an end here. You need to start applying pressure. You got to move up. They're not going to, you know, go rolling out in the open where you were raining down all that fire. You got to now move in and be able to take out these enemies. Now, like I was kind of saying earlier, there's so many different ways to play with tank destroyers. Some are glass cannons with high alpha damage, some are glass cannons with low alpha damage but high rate of fire. Some are heavily armored, you know, with good There's so many different ones. You'd almost have to make a video for each of the different types, but hope you're able to learn, you know, a couple things from this video on a guide on tank destroyers. Thanks for watching, and this is StudMuffin 1986.